So as we find ourselves back in Kawagoe's office, it seems that he was able to collect some information that corroborates what we saw in our vision at the end of Nanto Sunrise Academy. That indeed there were 3 students at the academy, Akane, Kenta, and Naoki, who all suffered very mysterious deaths. First, there's Kenta, whose blood-smeared corpse was found at the top of a set of stairs, which matches what we saw. Then there was Naoki, who ended up jumping off the roof of the academy due to some unknown means. And finally, there was Akane, who was found at the bottom of the stairs where Kenta was found. Now that does seem to go along with what we saw in our vision, and seems to go along with the fact that that could be how the cursed game was spread. The problem is that, as Oyama points out here, we've been seeing 2 girls, not just 1. And that definitely does not match the current tally of 3 that we've gotten. But, as Kawagoe postulates, there could very well be a 4th victim that we just do not know about at this time. And that's completely understandable that we might just not have all the information at this time, but we definitely were able to get quite a bit from our journey into the academy. Specifically, with the names of those students, we have another location to go to, though it's probably not one that is most agreeable. Though Kawagoe feels that the destination we're heading to is inevitable. Davey, on the other hand, is not really on board with where we are going to have to go. And Kawagoe seems to think some levity might loosen us up to the idea of heading to their graves. And as you can imagine, Davey is, let's say, still not fully on board. Still, it does bring up that larger question of what's happened to Ren. Now, she was investigating her own methods of undoing the curse, but we haven't heard from her within the last day or so. Something could have happened, and as we saw, something did happen. But the problem is that we are really running low on time. We only have 2-3 days tops before the curse consumes us. And right now we have the first real lead we've had the entire game. And as Kawagoe points out, we really can't let Ren's sentiment go to waste. We can't let her actions be in vain in case something did happen to her. It's really up to us to survive. Though he decides to put some level of romanticism on top of it, but it is important to survive. So, that's just what we are going to do. And also, Kawagoe does make an important point that there is a good chance that if we happen to eliminate the curse, we will end up saving a bunch of other people in the process. So, it seems like as good a reason as any to head to Kenta's tomb and get some more information. Almost immediately, it seems like we're not alone in the graveyard. But before we worry about that, let's go ahead and check the email Let's see what Kawagoe has to fill us in. Nothing too major. He is able to find out that Akane and Naoki did know each other before they went to the academy, and that they had a pretty strong bond, but the question still remains, what happened really between the three of them to cause such a schism? Also, a larger question is, just how did we enter into the graveyard, and has something gone amiss here? We'll say, if anything, at least it's a overall calm and pleasant evening. And there's thankfully no horrible girls trapped inside of wells, so that J-horror trope we've thankfully gotten around. Still, it would be nice to know if there's some wild animal running out in the bushes. Though I think there might be some much larger dangers to deal with in the cemetery. Specifically, that very familiar scraping noise. I get a strong feeling that we've heard that sound before. But before we can really deal with that, we do have a game update, which brings us into an incredibly dilapidated town. And it's not just the town itself, the architecture that's a little bit off. The people themselves are not entirely there. Thankfully, the innkeeper doesn't mind us rummaging around in this other room to find the faceless body part for this chapter. But yeah, we don't ever explicitly get the name of this town. If we talk to the gatekeeper, they'll try to tell us the name of the town, but it will just be a garbled mess. As far as I can tell, though, this is supposed to be a town of dead people. And a town of very unfortunate, negativity-filled dead people. They're not all completely negative, though. Some of them do have bits and pieces of useful information, I'd say. So yeah, if we were looking for a grave, there apparently isn't going to be one anywhere in town. And that is definitely a good piece of information, though I'm not sure if it's supposed to be symbolic of something, but yeah, this particular NPC you do want to make sure that you talk to, because he gives you very specific instruction that you are going to need to follow. Keep in mind that 4th and 7th pole. But yeah, the final person that we want to talk to for right now is this woman in the church here. She just tells us that this is a town of wandering spirits, so there could easily be the chance that we could find Kenta in there somewhere. But yeah, that mention of a 4th and 7th pole has to do with these Shinto gates. And yes, that demon hand that was mentioned in the RPG section, not symbolic at all. It is legitimately a large demon hand from hell that will kill you. Now, this isn't the first time that we are seeing this demon hand. It was present in the karaoke club back in, I think, the 2nd chapter. But in that case, you weren't able to see it without dying, so... Still, for all that, all we get for a reward is what looks to be a dead end. I don't know, maybe there's something of interest in this well. No, nothing of interest down this well. Just a little bit of pain. I'm not sure if it's more mental pain than anything, but well, at least there seems to be a way out of this cavern. At least we're not knee-deep in water. Still, I would not have expected what appears to be cells down here. Still, I mean, there might be something of interest inside them. While it seems pretty sparse, there is a game update waiting on the wall. Now, even though we have progressed further into the game, this particular platforming section is not anywhere near as hard as some of the previous. Though the glitchy state of it makes me think that maybe that was an intended design feature, that maybe it was only half finished. Well, we might as well keep on making our way down the line. Check out this next cell. And yet again, there is another update. This time, though, it's for the RPG. Inexplicably, there seems to be more graphic distortion. While resting forever does sound pretty pleasant, we should go out and explore. The problem is that we now seem to be locked inside of the inn. Yeah, and there doesn't seem to be any way out. Or at least that's how it seems initially. But if you do manage to check all 3 doors, we do get a little assistance from a new NPC. A somewhat familiar NPC, in fact. But yeah, if you had not completed that RPG section, you would have found that you were locked in the cell, so... It does seem like more and more of the metagame world is spilling over into the real world. Take this regret, for example. It doesn't appear to be anybody that we've run into previously. And the way it's dressed and the way it looks seems almost very familiar to one of the lost souls in that town of the dead. Really makes you start to wonder. Well, we've seen parts where small changes have happened in the real world. A flashlight has shown up, bundle of flowers, but now it seems like whole areas of the game are spilling over into the real world. I mean, it's really difficult for me to imagine that there was actually, in reality, a torture chamber / dungeon just hidden underneath this graveyard. Overall, we really don't have time to postulate for too long. We still have to keep in mind our main goal is to try and make it somehow to Kenta's grave. And though it seems initially like we've hit a dead end, there is an odd panel here. Which gains us access to a small shrine, I assume. Assume this is supposed to ward away evil spirits, but I think it is not really doing its job so well. But after that little bit of a side trip into the possible game world spilling over into the real world, the good news is we have found ourselves back in the graveyard. Just where we wanted to be. The thing is, though, that well, this area of the graveyard can be particularly dangerous because, well, as you can already hear and see, at least from the distortion, there are regrets in this tombstone-filled area. The problem is, we don't get any kind of hint as to where they might be. We just have to very, very cautiously make our way through. Because they are the partially invisible type of regret. But it's easy enough to avoid our old friend Yuto in the graveyard. And you know what? After all that tension and all that torture chamber nonsense and underground prison cells, we we actually get something of a reprieve in this pretty serene bamboo pathway. No one skittering in the bushes, no thunderstorms, just a nice quiet night. But as we do find ourselves back in this city of wandering souls, some of the dialogue has changed a little bit. Namely, if we talk to the barmaid here, it seems that there was someone vandalizing one of her tables. And as she is bringing it up, it is going to be important that we find this vandalized table and see what might be scribbled on it. Sadly, this drunken patron is no help, but it's right next to him that we find the information we're looking for. And it fills us in on a portion of what we have to do. Namely, that we are going to have to do something with lanterns, and that we are not going to be able to look back. And if we want even more of a hint, we do have this friendly NPC up here, who fills us in on pretty much the answer we are looking for. He mentions eyes, but specifically left and right eyes, and then finally 2 eyes to open up the gates to hell. So with that in mind, we do have this massive long staircase where on each side we do see lit lanterns. Now if we follow the instructions of that gray-haired NPC, taking out the left lantern first, making sure never to look back. We then follow up with the right-hand side lantern. And finally, for the last set, we have to take out both the left and right eye. Never look back. And there we go. We found our way to our final destination for the graveyard. And it seems that someone's expecting us. It may be a bit hard to recognize, but that's Kenta. And Kenta has something very important to tell us. But before we can fully talk to him, it is going to be necessary to make our way to him in the RPG, just as we made our way to him in the real world. As we do leave the town of Wandering Souls proper, Along this path here, we finally find some graves. Before we talk to Kenta there, though, there is a very easy to get curse cartridge. But yeah, I think this Kenta will be a little bit more talkative. like that, the final bits of the puzzle fall into place. The larger mystery, though, is that in the end, it wasn't Naoki who killed Kenta at all, but instead it was the cursed game. And what Akane saw was not actually what happened. Instead, it was a misunderstanding that made Akane lose her mind. More importantly, though, is that Akane did not die at the base of those stairs. Instead, she was taken away to a nearby hospital. But as to what happened at the hospital, Kenta doesn't seem to know, as, well, he was dead by that point. So even though it does seem like we've reached another dead end, there is a strong possibility that Kawagoe might have some more information about this hospital that we're looking for.